G'day all, welcome back to another episode of Shooting the Shit Uncensored. I'm your host, Piers Austin, and we are brought to you by Multi-Continental Wrestling Alliance on Facebook and on YouTube. We're also on Twitter and Instagram. Check us out, follow us, subscribe to us, all of that good stuff that you guys love to do to keep up to date with all the information we've got coming up. But guys, tonight I am blessed. I am very thankful to have one of Australia's best top talents going around the world today in Australia, and probably one of the best wrestlers in the world at the moment. But before we get into my interview with that gentleman, I just want to take a quick moment to thank some sponsors so we can keep the lights on up in this bitch. First off is A-Rock Design. So A-Rock Designs is that company you see around in all of the wrestling Facebook groups, Facebook pages. They make custom tumblers, t-shirts, keychains. I'm stumbling my words this evening. And they do everything at an affordable price and make a fantastic product. They made me this custom CM Punk tumbler. Absolutely love it. This thing is a beast. I haven't put beer in it because obviously CM Punk straight edge, and that's kind of sacrilegious if I'm doing that to that. But anyway, I digress. Our next sponsor is Signal Studios. So Signal Studios is run by my best mate, Rafi Tomasian. Now, if you're an independent professional wrestler, you need some new entrance music, you can hit up Rafi at Signal Studios. He can mix, master, create, and send it out to you wherever you are in the world. Or if you're a musician and you like a place to rehearse or record, you can go down to Signal Studios in West Ryde, Sydney. They have a very, very comfortable space to you to get your best work out. My third and final sponsor is UNCESORED championship belts. Now, every wrestling fan either owns a championship belt or wants to own a championship belt. So if you want to get a replica of your favorite belt or a custom championship belt made, head over to UNCESORED Championship Belts on Facebook, hit those guys up, and you can get an amazing belt at an affordable price. They've got payment plans and all that good stuff. But guys, if you want to support this show, you want to support Shooting the Shit Multi-Continental Wrestling Alliance, head over to prowrestlingtees.com/MWA World and pick up one of our shirts today. But guys, look, I've been sitting here for a couple minutes. My guest is in the back. I'm excited to bring him out. I'm going to bring him out. He is the man himself, the Rapscallion Mick Moretti. Mick, what's going on, buddy?
If I'd known you were going to introduce me from backstage, I would have set up curtains and I would have walked through them and I would have done a whole thing about it.
Oh,
next
man,
time.
Next time, buddy.
When
we do part two, man, we'll definitely get to part two, I'm sure. But let's get through part one.
For sure. But I am well, to answer your question. Thank you for asking.
Mate, it's good to have you on. You've been one guy I've been wanting to get on for quite a while, and mate, thank you for giving up your time. It's great to have you on, and but before we get into it, I just want to know, how's life been, man? Because wrestling shows here in Australia have been pretty far and few between. 2020 has been a real shitty year. How have you been going with it all, man?
I've done the best I can, basically. 2020's been a sucker punch to maybe not everyone, but a good majority of people. So just kind of copping that, hurling in my stomach. It sucked when wrestling came to a stop because with all the momentum that I've had lately, it was kind of really pushing forward. And I was like, yes, I'm finally reaching the point where maybe I can finally start relying on this as my career full time. I won't have to have odd jobs, won't have to other stuff. Maybe wrestling can finally be the thing. And then, 2020 struck and put a massive pin in that. So now I've just been kind of cruising, trying to get by. I'm lucky for myself that I have an ABN with all the extra work and bits and pieces that I do. So I've been able to get support through government funding. So that's kept me above water. Thank God. Otherwise, I don't know what the hell I would have done. But I've just been trying to keep occupied, basically. I subscribed to bloody TikTok, and now I'm addicted to fucking TikTok. I've been streaming a bit more. I've been trying to push some of my graphic design work that I do t-shirt designs for people. And just kind of getting my creative flair and shit. I like to create. This is kind of what I like doing. So I'll make graphics on the computer. I'll learn to play the guitar. I got this thing called a Jaws harp. Do I have it handy? No. Probably not. It's this ridiculous instrument that you put in your mouth. I fucking bought one of them so I could sit here and be like, bing, 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 bing.
That is awesome.
Mick, whatever I can do to pass the time. I just started skateboarding. I was like, what can't I get my fingers into? I think is here it is. Yes, I knew it was close. Seriously, this is what I'm doing with my life now. I'm playing.
It's good to see you
instruments.
keeping busy, though, Mick. Seriously, man. It's good to see that you're keeping yourself occupied and learning new skills. So you never know. That could be part of the new. It could be a new gimmick, man. You can come to the ring.
It could be. I just come to the ring and bust out a fucking solo on this little bad boy, and everyone's like, "Yeah, Mick's officially lost it. He's done. He's gone. Send him."
Too many head bumps.
Yeah, you know. I'm the kind of person who I have to be doing stuff. I can't sit still for too long. It drives me insane. Like, even if I spend too much time just kind of watching TV or playing games or whatever, if I don't feel like I'm doing something somewhat productive at the same time, I'm like, I've wasted my life. So I need to be proactively doing shit.
Man, I feel you on that, dude. I'm exactly the same way. I just got to be constantly moving, constantly doing something. I've got a 4-year-old kid, but my son and even my 2-year-old daughter, they just look at me and go, "Dad, well, just quiet time now, okay? Like it's time to chill." Yeah. Like, can we just have a nap? Like, just give us 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's meant to be the other way around, but you know what? I respect it.
That's it, man. But look, getting into wrestling, man, you started back in 2008, training in Western Sydney at the infamous and famous AWF wrestling.
All of the above. Yeah,
all of the above. And, you know, AWF has been around probably as one of the longest, eldest promotions in Australia that's still currently active besides IWA. But, you know, prior to training, like, were you always a massive fan of wrestling? Was it always something that you were always obsessed with?
Yeah. Pretty much, for as long as I can like physically remember, I loved wrestling. It was actually my neighbor who used to live across the road from me that got me into it. So he was a couple of years older than me. He played the big brother figure in my life. I'm one of two in my family. My sister's younger than I am, so I was the eldest. But my neighbor, Aaron, being the older fella, was my best mate growing up. We used to bloody hang out every other afternoon, and he would either love me to death or beat the living fuck out of me, like a good older brother does.
Yeah.
And he introduced me to wrestling, and we would watch it on TV whenever we could. We would wrestle on the trampoline in the swimming pool, and just kind of fell in love with the idea of it back then. And because there was two of us, it was always about being a tag team. He had a younger brother. God bless the little kid. He was like 6 at the time, maybe even younger, maybe even 4. And he was our rag doll. We were bloody 3D and the bloody Hardy Boy leg drop combination and whatever you can imagine, the poor kid. But because of that, I fell in love with Matt Hardy because we kind of cosplayed the Hardy Boys the most, and my mate was obsessed with Jeff, so I was like, I'm Matt. So I grew up just always pretending to be Matt. So Matt was kind of my childhood favorite. But that's kind of what got me into it as a kid. And then just growing up doing that on the trampoline, in the pool, in the living room, anywhere we could, begging my parents to let me watch it on TV whenever it was on, and often losing the fight. It was just something that stuck with me, and I never grew out of that. Once I hit high school, I rallied a group of friends. I was like, let's do backyard wrestling. So we did that for a bunch of years, and then, come 2008, I found an actual school. I had enough money to be able to afford to pay for the tuition, if you will. And then, boom, off I went.
And then you straight into it. And how did you like find AWF? Like, you know, how was that your school of choice? How did it come down to it? Because it was close to where you lived?
So obviously the two main schools that I can't say obviously because you don't know, that was obvious. Whenever I looked up back then, wrestling school, that was AWF or was IWA.
Yeah.
I'd actually found IWA first. And it was basically the full tuition all up front. And I was like, okay, that's a decent amount of money. I don't have that. I got to save up for a while. And then I had a friend join AWF. I don't know if you remember JP Rockefeller from in my early days. He was a friend of mine from before wrestling. And he said that he joined AWF. He's like, look, it still ends up being the same price, but you pay it for each class. So you kind of pay it in 3 or 4 segments as opposed to paying it all at once. So it's a bit easier on the wallet. And he's like, I'm there now. It's a good school. I'm learning stuff. You should just join here. And I was like, all right, let's do it. And then off I went.
There you go. And how was it, how was it first going straight into the wrestling school and learning to go through that process? Was it, did it take you a while to get used to it, or was it like a duck to water?
I think I picked up on the physical stuff fairly quickly. I've always been like a physical individual. I've played sports my whole life. I've done all kinds of, I played soccer, I played squash, I did dancing, I played tennis, I played league. I was just an athletic kind of guy. So I think the physical side of it was all right. it was more adapting to the psychological side of it, and then learning about match structure and the psychology behind that, and then the politics as well, learning how to come in as someone at the beginning. And it's very much like a big corporate business. When you come in at the bottom, you're at the fucking bottom, kid. You've got to earn your way up. You're going to buy everyone their coffee and you start at the bottom. Yeah. And me being a rambunctious young little fuckhead, I think it took me a minute to get that and make sure that I wasn't stepping on any toes. But yeah, no, I loved it. From the second I got there, I was like, this is sick.
And, you know, training there at AWF, how long were you under training before you actually got in there and had your first match?
It was about a year. It was pretty much almost 12 months exactly it ended up being. Because the way that they structured their class, you came in at the beginner's level, you did 3 months, went to intermediate for 3 months, you went to advanced for 3 months. I can't remember if there was time. There might have been even like a little bit of like holiday time in between. I can't remember precisely. And then once I got to advanced, then once you finished the advanced class, you went into like sort of open training, but everyone continued, if memory serves me right, to still train in the advanced group, but it was just kind of open. Yeah. After finishing that, then I stayed in the open class for a while. Actually, no. Our whole class repeated the advanced class. We got through to the advanced, we finished it. And at the end of the 3 months, at the time, the coach was like, look, you guys still aren't ready. We're going to kind of put you through the class again, keep training you up to get your show ready. And then it was during that rerun that TNT was like, yep, Mick, I need you in a match. Let's go. It was a dojo show that he put me in. I was like, all right, I'm in, coach. And it was pretty much it. I'm pretty sure it was because I started the training in April of 2008, I think right at the end. And it was in April of 2009, if memory serves me right, that we did the dojo show.
And do you remember who your first match was against?
Yeah, Xander Bathory. It was for the Young Lions title. I was like a plant in the crowd. And he was all like, I'm better than everyone. And I'm like, not better than me. I'm not. Did the whole march into the ring. I was like, I got him, guys. And the crowd's like, yeah, random, that guy. And fun fact about that show is Concrete Davidson was doing the ringside announcing. And we did this little bit that we'd planned beforehand. How I get in the ring and it's, oh, kid, like, you're so full of energy. Like, this is great. Like, okay. Like, and he comes up to me, goes, and he kind of pulls the mic aside as if to pretend like he's speaking to me directly, but obviously close enough we could still hear. He goes, what's your name, kid? I go, Mick Moretti. He goes, that's a terrible name. And I was like, oh, well, what do you want me to do, man? He goes, we need to make you up a new name. We need to come up with something right now. This kid's name, everybody is. He's like, what do you do? What's your style? I'm like, well, I'm pretty fast. He's like a jet. I'm like, yeah, like a jet, like a dash. He's like a dash, like a lightning bolt, like a bolt. He's like, okay, ladies and gentlemen, Jet Dash Bolt. And then that was my name for that first match. I was like, yeah, fucking let's go, Jet Dash Bolt. And then I jobbed out to Xander Bathory because for some reason I wasn't worthy of the title. I don't know, whatever.
That's disgraceful, mate. I think that's the Sydney screw job right there.
That is the Sydney screw job. And funny twist of fate, Xander used to use the snapmare driver as his finish back then, which is one of the finishing moves I use right now. So not directly linked, just coincidental. Yeah.
No, I'm sure. But, and, you know, after that first match, like, was it then just like, I got to get my ass back in that ring and keep doing this for as often as I can?
Well, to be honest, that was the attitude from the beginning. I was like, I got to get in that ring. But the match definitely just helped solidify that behavior. It wasn't too much longer after that. Got put into a tag match at Fairy Meadow, where I teamed up with Kyle Seminoff and I wrestled then Bluey Bonzar and Scotty Clubb. And I was officially Mick Moretti for this one. I didn't have gear, so TNT's like, just wrestle in what you're wearing, which was my jeans and my Chuck Taylors. So I went out there in jeans and Chuck Taylors, and that in that match, if it's anywhere on the internet, it might be, good old Bonza and Clubb brought me in the good old school way and chopped the living fuck out of me, like the entire match. They go, yeah, we'll do like a ping pong. Yeah, I was bleeding pretty much. Welcome to the business, kid. Yay! I loved it though. I'm like, meant to be selling, but I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever. Oh shit, okay, no, this kind of hurts, but oh my god, this is the greatest thing ever. Yeah, it was ridiculous.
And they're probably like sitting there going, why won't you fucking sell?
I ended up selling, don't you worry about that.
I'm sure, man. Taking those chops, I've seen some of it. I remember the early days in the early 2000s. I went to a lot of IWA shows and seeing Phil Picasso chop the fuck out of people's chests. And I was like, Oh, yeah, no
It hurts,
thanks.
bro.
Yeah,
Chops,
yeah,
they just have this sting, and some people like really get them too. So, but
yeah.
if you're a professional like me, my chops, they don't hurt. No pain, all sound, much professional.
There you go, Mr. Professional himself. But but obviously, a few years down the track, you left AWF and went to
Yeah.
PWA. What was the reason for leaving AWF? Was it just to broaden your horizons and try and work elsewhere, or was there other
Yeah.
reason why you left? Or
Yeah, it all ties into that in a nutshell. So AWF had like an exclusivity rule at the time. I'm not sure how they operate these days. But it was basically if you're with AWF, you're with AWF. Like that's it. If you want to wrestle somewhere else, then you have to go. And I remember talking to TNT. It was shortly after the Ben-Hur big stadium thing that was on because myself, Benny Coles, TNT, and a bunch of guys from PWA. You had the Fitness Maniacs. You had who is now Caveman Ugg, even though he was someone totally different then. Were also in the show, and we kind of like were hanging out with them and made friends with them. And they were like, "Dude, you guys should come do a match with us at PWA." And we were like, "Oh god, that's going to be hard to try and politic." But we ended up talking to TNT, and he let us do it. But it just got me thinking. Like the guys at PWA just said, "Look, the door's open. Like we're not going to try and take you from there. It's your choice to make if you want to stay there. But if you come here, you're most welcome. We'd love to have you, etc., etc. You won't be limited to wrestling just here." And that got me thinking. I was like, well, I want to be able to wrestle wherever, right? And if I'm limited to this exclusivity, that kind of it hinders and it limits my opportunities, if you like. And it was getting to the point where a lot of the more experienced people at AWF were moving on to other things. And after this was 1 year of training, 2 years of shows. So I'd been at AWF for a total of 3 years. And I was like one of the top 5 seniors there, I think, thereabouts. And it's just there's not enough for me to learn here anymore. Like the best move for my career is to go out. So I spoke to TNT. I was like, look, this is what I want to do. This is why I'm going. And there was no hard feelings. Like he was really cool. It's like, yeah, look, man, I understand. Like we'll probably still use you from time to time. Like I get it. Do your thing. So we kind of cut ties nice and fairly and agreeably. And then off I went.
yeah.
And then I started wrestling for PWA.
And I think probably TNA, who'd been in the business for such a long period of time, like he's probably seen that happen, countless times before.
Probably,
and,
yeah.
The exclusivity to a promotion is, unless you're getting paid WWE type money, no one can really keep you.
It's not something you can. Yeah, that's it. I mean, and that's kind of what it came down to. And at the time, I was such a rookie that like it's kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, so whatever. But now, if someone's like, you're wrestling for here and here only, I'm like, motherfucker, you better be giving me a salary. Like. Yeah. There better be something to make it worth it. Well, I understand the ideology behind it, like adding value to your talent by making them exclusive to you. But at the same time, like, is what sacrifice is that at to the talent themselves? So
that's the thing. Like I remember back when I was going to a lot of Aussie wrestling shows in the early 2000s that IWA guys wrestled for IWA, AWF guys wrestled for A. You know what I mean? Like that, there was that exclusivity and the split. I don't know whether that was
territorial
because of the promotions. Yeah, I don't know if that was because of the promotions or whatever. But I think over time, and you've definitely seen the Australian wrestling scene become more free flowing,
integrated.
I think, more integrated. You're seeing guys from PWA go and wrestle for IWA, MCW, BC. You know what I mean? Like it's all being, guys are going out. And look, that's the best way that you learn because the more experience you have around other people, other performers, the better you get. If you're wrestling, Billy Blackjack Thornton or whatever his name is, but if you're wrestling the same person every single week, how are you going to evolve?
It limits, right? Exactly. Yeah.
And that probably expands past wrestling as well. So,
and anything like the more people you can work with, the more you're going to learn. And like getting the chance to perform in front of different audiences means you get to build your own personal following. You get to show other people what you've got. And then audiences might start to share their appreciation for other different companies. And then hopefully everyone begins to flourish as opposed to a us versus them mentality. It could kind of be like turn it into more of a collective thing. Like let's all try to make each other better. And then, like, I think the appeal of wrestling is that every character and performer is so different. You want to see what Joe Blow does against Jimmy K or whatever the fuck, you know, like you want to see the dynamic that these two different people bring together in a match. And then how that's going to be different to if this person wrestled that person or this person wrestled that person. Like you're always going to have different ingredients in the formula. So mixing them up is going to make for more dynamic, more entertaining wrestling shows.
I 100% agree from a fan standpoint as well. You know, like it's more entertaining for the fans, especially if you go to a PWA show and you're knowledgeable about the Australian scene. Then you see a performer from say Melbourne come down, and you're like, holy shit, that was unannounced. You know what I mean? Like at least gives that little bit of extra shock factor, and gives that audience something to go, wow, now I've got to come back to PWA to see who's going to be here next month, or I've got to go to this promotion.
No doubt.
They're going to, so. But, PWA, like, while we're on that topic, PWA has to be probably the standout promotion in Australia, hands down. Like, the stars.
I would like to think so. I know I'm biased, but I do like to think so. Sorry, I was interrupting. Go, finish.
No. I was just saying, like, PWA has, obviously the standout stars. They've had top tier talent go through their doors as well. And you guys seem to put on a show where it's professionalism at another level. Like I've been able to speak to international talent and they mention PWA as a place they want to go to, as a place. Oh, I got to come to Australia. I want to come and work at PWA.
Awesome.
Even LaFisto, when I had the opportunity to speak with her, she, sung praise of Madison Eagles by saying she's one of the best performers in the world, man or woman. She's like, and LaFisto was like, I'd love to come to Australia and wrestle her there in PWA. So but what
a compliment.
It was, man. And for PWA, how did you guys get to that level? Because you're one of the head trainers there now, and obviously you've been there for a few years, and you've seen the growth of PWA. You've seen people come and go. But how did you guys take it from being a wrestling operation to taking it to the next level of being the top wrestling promotion?
It's been an ongoing thing, I suppose. So like when I came in, it was great. Like there was a time, like I was coming in right at the end of like an era at the Masonic Center where they were killing it there for a time. I don't think I got to see the peak period of the Masonic Center because I came in right towards the end as rent ran out and bits and pieces like that. But they had the advantage there of the returning audience at the same venue. So I think that kind of helped. And it was good for what it was, for what an indie was back in that time, if that makes sense. Like I guess indie wrestling has changed a lot. But then as we lost the Masonic Center and then we had to start looking for venues elsewhere, that's when it started to become much more a challenge because we had to try and find decent venues, and finding a venue in Greater Sydney for wrestling was fucking hard. Like wrestling had this stigma where you'd go to a venue that you would think would be decent. They'd be like, nah, we don't want wrestling. Get the fuck out of here. And there was so many venues like that where we just, because we were wrestling, they weren't having a bar of it. And that was on top of the already difficult situation of finding a decent venue that you could run and would look good. Like, sure, like everyone can go to a basketball stadium and that's great. Like we can run venues there. You can run shows there, but we're trying to look for that next level thing. We're trying to look for that place that we can present and we can do whatever. And at the Time, places like Max Watts and similar were just too far out of the budget. We couldn't afford to do that kind of thing. But anyway, there was an ongoing process where jumping from spot to spot, different areas of Sydney, it became very hard to stay on top of, became very hard to manage, became very hard for recurring audiences, especially to stay on top of storylines. It's like we were trying to keep them somewhat focused from arena to arena, but still kind of continual around them all. It was just a mess. And then when the owners that were running it then stepped away and weren't taking on the same responsibility, Robbie and I kind of stepped up and were like, all right, we're going to step in and we're going to help. And we started helping out as much as we could at keeping the shows going. And there was about a year or so where Robbie and I were pretty much keeping everything going. And in that same chapter, the same thing happened with the school, where the school kind of fell underside. And I think there was a couple of months where it just didn't exist. So me and Robbie came up and said, look, do you guys mind if we reopen the school? And they were like, yep, go for it. So we did. We found a new venue in Liverpool, this cheap, shitty warehouse. And he and I started the school all over again. And we're like, look, we said to Madison, was like, we still want you to, like, you are probably one of the most knowledgeable people in the world. Like, we need you on as a head coach. Please stay. And she's like, yeah, of course. So we kind of kept that going and just built it up from the ground up from there. And we kept working on that. And I think having a strong focus on the school really helped, because we really wanted people to come in. And like, for us, we take it very seriously in the sense that it's not like, but like we're passionate about it. And when we want to learn to wrestle, we're not doing it just for shits and gigs or to have a laugh on the weekend. Like, we want something out of this. So when we train, we push people, and we have that mentality of train to be the best. And I think that like bled into what we were doing. And we've always encouraged a community kind of environment. We've always done our best to say like everyone should be welcome. Everyone should be encouraged. You should be out to help each other, not hurt each other. Like, we are one, not we are many. Like that cliche bullshit, but it's what works. It's the shit, that the mentality that you need to have. So we started ingraining that in ourselves and all of our new students from the beginning when we reopened, and kind of kept kicking the academy up from there. And as that was going on, we were continually starting to try and find stuff to build the shows themselves. And then Bonza came in, and I don't know how many people know that. I think it's pretty well known that he was one of the big guys that stepped in. He is a business genius. He is so smart. And then since he came in and said, look, I want to help start running the business side of things. And when he came in with his smarts and stuff, we just went from strength to strength to strength to strength. He's just so good at managing that kind of thing, like talking to venues and managing like the corporate side of things and all of that. Then once the whole team came together with his leadership on that side of things, us focusing on the school, everything just kept going from one thing to the other. It just kept compiling, and we continued to say, keep supporting each other. And then the atmosphere at shows and at training, it was just good. Like, it just became this giant family. And that's, I think, what's really helped, because everyone's just been out to try and help each other as much as possible, as best we can in any environment. I know it's in any big group, it's very hard for absolutely everyone to get along. Like, it's almost impossible, but we try to foster it as best we can. And I think that's one of the main things that's helped, on top of all of the amazing fucking management stuff that Bonza and then the other admin team have done on that side of things. We've got our camera crew with Ben Anderson, and then Party Boy Jax when he started doing editing and stuff. Like, having them come onto the team with the production values that they bring from a digital standpoint, getting Max Watts and having the live shit come to life, getting Chris Gale and Andrew Rose from Triple M, who came across to be our ringside commentators. Like, we just started finding these extra assets that added to what was already a brilliant wrestling product. Like, I think what we do in the ring has always been at the top of the country, because we've always worked so hard on it. But then all the extra elements have started to come together bit by bit, by consistent, persistent, hard work, and like togetherness. You know what I mean?
But that's refreshing. That's refreshing to hear, though. Like, you know, the world of wrestling with politics and, you know, like people cutting people's legs out from underneath them and all that sort of bullshit. You know, it's actually good and refreshing to hear that, you know, you guys see it as something different. You know what I mean? Like, you guys plan to make this as you want this to be your career, your livelihood, but also keeping the fun aspect of it. And that is probably the thing that's the most refreshing. Yeah.
And then that's what you need to do. Like, I still remember, I can't remember what year it was. It would have been 2012 or 2013. We're at Camden Civic Center, and we were sitting, me and Robbie were watching one of the shows, and there was like 40, 50 people in the crowd. The room looks heaped empty. And me and him looked at each other like, what the fuck are we supposed to do? Like, how do we get Australian wrestling to be big? Like, how do we get people to realize how fucking good we actually are? It's like, what's it going to take? And we just had this like moment with each other. We were like shaking each other, like, what are we supposed to do? Because he and I have always been so aligned in the goal of making Australian wrestling great. Like, that's the main reason I'm still here. I could have fucked off overseas by now, you know, but I'm so attached to this at home that I've just wanted to keep contributing here. And ideally, I want to do what Robbie's doing, because with New Japan, it's so close to home. You can still be here. So I'm like, fuck you, man. I'm so jealous.
And he's had some good luck over there too.
Oh, he's killing it. It's because he's the man. Like, he's just brilliant. He's so good. He's so smart. He's so humble. And that has helped us as well. Like, I mean, Madison brought so much knowledge from overseas and her time that she's traveled around the world in terms of training. Robbie having all of this time with New Japan and his exposure there, it's just bringing more information and more experience back to the school and back to everyone else, because he gets to share what he learns from there with all of us. And it's that essence of us. Like every time someone learns something, we give it to each other as best we can.
And, you mentioned having that community sort of base, but, when you guys are sort of having new students come in there and, myself, I have a background in MMA and that sort of stuff. And at a lot of the gyms I trained at, there was always a no dickhead policy. Is that very much, well, basically, you don't want someone coming in there that's going to try and take liberties and stuff like that. And being in in the professional wrestling world and in your environment as well, do you guys have that similar type of policy when you're having someone new come in, you're sitting back, you're watching how they're interacting, how they integrate into the school?
In a way, like we don't explicitly say like, no dickheads allowed. We try to have as open a door as possible. Like I know it's a very hard environment to come into. I know that because going into any group that's as tight as we are, like there's always this barrier. Intended or not, like because everyone's so close, like you've got to try and get past that, right? So that's already a thing it is. So we are constantly reminding the group, like, guys, make sure you're always trying to be welcoming, make sure you try to invite everyone new. When it comes to the dickhead thing, we try and iron the behavior out of people. If we notice people doing shit, we try to call them out on it. We try to just nip it in the bud as best we can, as soon as we can, like from what we know about, and say like, you shouldn't be doing that. That's not appropriate. And we try to fix people. I shouldn't say fix people, but correct behaviors that are inappropriate. No one's perfect, but we do our best. And a lot of the time, if someone's a dickhead, they don't stay.
Yeah.
Like they get there, they come in, they try to do their dickhead thing, and we're ironing that out. And then they're like, this isn't going to work. And they just leave. We don't need to say fuck off. They just realize that, hey, I'm too much of a dickhead for this place. See ya. And then off they go.
And that's the thing. I mean, it's obviously to try and iron that out as well. And as you go back, as what you said about the community based thing, and I think it's as well, especially the people that are younger coming in, you need to sort of almost mentor them, not just in wrestling, but also in life a little bit. It's like, hey man, in life you can't really say that to someone. You know what I mean? Like,
and it's hard. Like it's hard to stay on top of it. It's hard to know what's going on. Like if one of us head people don't see it, and it kind of happens among students, like, and we don't catch it. It's like, how do we stay on top of that? And people sometimes are too scared to mention things. Like there's so many interweaving factors going on. But we do the best we can in the circumstances we're given to get rid of it from the start. And I think what's really helped with that is having Madison there for so long in a position of leadership. Someone who knows what it's like as a woman in this business that has not treated women very well. She can be someone who can step forward and iron out behavior that's not acceptable. And she's such an advocate for that kind of thing and better behavior. And it's helped help shift our perspectives in the right direction under her tutelage. You know what I mean? So it's just one of the best influences you could hope to have in terms of trying to make sure that everyone is treated the way that they should be.
Yeah, no, I completely get it. You've also had some time to go outside of the country and wrestle overseas as well. What was that experience like for you? Was that like a major eye-opening thing, or?
Yeah, like I'd wanted to travel for years. There was just always some excuse or another, whether it was financial, whether it was girlfriends, whether it was studying, whatever the fuck it was. And I finally reached a point where I was like, I can't keep making excuses. So I stuck with this job that I had. I saved my ass off. And I was fortunate that at the time I was with Jessica Troy. She was my partner at the time, who was a fellow wrestler. So having goals that were aligned, we both said, look, let's go to America. And she was all on board. So we just worked our asses off, saved up for a while, and planned this big 5-month trip to America where we went to Philly, to Chicago, to Orlando, to Texas, and to LA. And with our goals so aligned, it just made it easier to say, all right, cool, wrestling. And off we went. And it was incredible. It was like the best thing I've done for my career, I think, so far, because it's given me some more international opportunities, renown, experience, more stuff I can bring back, et cetera, et cetera. But it's not a very different world, but it's just kind of like seeing a different version of the wrestling world over there. Like there's so much more of it, so many more people. It's interesting going over there when back here, everyone's like, oh yeah, Mick, you're a veteran, you're a coach, blah, 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 blah. And then I'm over there, I'm like, I've got to act like I'm starting all over again. I've got to swallow my pride and swallow my ego, make sure I don't act like a fuckwit. And remember that they don't know who the fuck I am. to them, I'm another rookie. Like, I can't just walk in and like fucking start big nerding people. I got to start from the bottom again. So that was an interesting process, getting in there and kind of like trying to work my way from the bottom again and earn my stripes in a totally new scene. And it was great, like getting to train and stuff. No, I was just gonna say it was great getting to train in all the different places.
So, but actually getting bookings in over there, like, did you have anything lined up before you went over to the States, or was that something you had to get over there in front of people first?
Yeah, no, I didn't have anything explicitly lined up yet. The only connection I had was Madison put me in touch with Quackenbush. She said, look, I know Quack, we've known each other for a long time. He'll let you go train with them at Chikara, and then the rest is up to you. I was like, okay, cool. So that's what I did. I went and I trained, and then I earned my way in. I was like, obviously I want to be on shows. That's the end goal here. And then I trained. I got to the point where Mike was like, yeah, okay, you guys are good. I'm going to put you on a show. And then from that training, and then from there, using that, I made up the fancy ass resume, did it all graphic pretty and shit, and sent it out to everywhere that I wanted to wrestle. And was like, hey, book us. And like the resume looked nice. I got feedback from people saying this is the best resume we've ever seen. I was like, good. Wow. It fucking should be. Just because I prettied it up. I didn't just send some message on Facebook that said, hey, I want to wrestle for you. Here's our YouTube link. I fucking made a PDF file that looked like it was made by a professional that had links to everything, because I want to be treated like a professional. So I need to present myself as a professional. And that got us a few extra bookings. And then from here, it just grew. It was just like once, like an infection. Once it started, it just continued to go and go and go. So
spiraled. So Sean Hooker, he says Lauderdale needs to book you in GCW again.
Yes, he does. I'm all in for it. Yes. No, I've been in. Good. I had been in touch with the GCW mob, so I'd like to think I will be booked again. I was planning to go over for Mania Week and stuff. I was in talks with them. I was in talks with Black Label. I was talking to Janela about his spring break show. Like I was doing the WrestleCon US Against the World show. I think PWG were planning a show around that time, like just before or just after, if memory serves me right. So I had a few things in the works. So I'd like to think that I would have gone back and will still have the chance to go back. So let's keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah, GCW is a great company, man. Like they're doing everything right as far as indies go.
Killing it.
They are. Yeah, they're almost like how the indie revolution was in the early 2000s, where you had such hardcore, passionate fans, and GCW brought that back from all accounts. So we also have someone, Nikki Van Blair says, "I love you, Mick, you handsome man."
Thanks, Nikki. I love you too, sexy.
And also, Nikki, just so you know, I'm going to be messaging you to come on the show soon as well. So,
yeah.
That's it. But training wrestlers in itself, that must be one of the most challenging things, is teaching someone, as you've been a professional for 10 plus years, to then go back and having guys taking their first bumps. Do you find that frustrating, or how's your patience with that?
No, I'm strangely patient I'm a patient human being. Yeah. Not when I'm driving and not when I'm playing video games. All right. They're the two times I don't have patience. But outside of that, I think I'm a pretty patient person. And with training especially, I love coaching. I really enjoy it, which is why I'm glad I kind of fell into it. I'd never planned to become a coach. It was just way back when at PWA, before we took over the school, the Eagles would be unavailable to take class. They'd be like, oh, Mick, can you just run the class for us tonight? We can't be there. And I'm like, okay, I'm sure. What do you want me to do? I just go through arm drags and hip tosses or whatever it was, right? I was like, okay. And then that slowly evolved into doing it more and more and more. And then I started getting a weekly session. And then me and Robbie were like, this is our fucking school now. So, yeah, I'm really glad that happened, because I fucking love coaching. I find it so rewarding I feel like I'm contributing something, I'm giving back to this thing that I love so much. And it's to watch people evolve, especially some of the students that have come through, and to see them go from not having any clue what wrestling is about, right, just loving it, to seeing the things that they're doing on shows and seeing the opportunities that they're getting, and just being able to say, I had a part in that. I helped them in some way get there. And that's incredible to me. And the patience doesn't even matter, because what matters is that they're trying, and they can fail a million times. I don't care. Like, that's what training is for. Like, it's fun telling people that. I like those moments where you see someone who's getting frustrated or whatever with themselves, and you've got to remind them, like, that's what you're here for. They're like, oh, I don't want to fuck it up. I'm like, you're supposed to fuck it up. That's what you're training for. So you fuck it up, you learn what you did wrong, and you try not to fuck it up next time. And even if you do, you keep trying. Like, it's literally the point. And what people forget is that everyone learns different things at different paces. Some people are real good at physical stuff. Some people are real good at storytelling. Some people are real good at psychology. Some people are real good at, like, logic. But everyone's good at different shit. Like, some people are good at comedy. Like, the list goes on. Yeah, and people beat themselves up like, oh, this person's already in the next class. But it doesn't matter. You'll get there. This part will take you longer. Once you get to there, you'll probably find that you'll get this, and this super quick. And then, like, seeing them turn around and realize that, oh yeah, I'm allowed to fuck up. It's okay to fail, because then I'm going to get there. And then when they eventually get what they've been trying to get, it's the best. It's fucking, it's great.
And that's the thing. I think it's like, as long as people are going there and they're putting that effort in, as far as like being a coach, then it's worth your while doing it. You know what I mean? Like, if someone's turning up and they're like half-assing it, then I'm sure you'd sit there and it's like, come on, man. You know what I mean? Like, fuck, you know, but, and that's the thing, I think, with that'd be like in anything, but I think as far as, like, you know, being a coach in wrestling, it would have to be, you know, very, very much like very strong patience and very thick skin to sort of be able to help guide people through that as well, though, because it's like the emotional, like, stress that these people are going through, thinking, this is embarrassing, I can't do something that everyone else does, you know?
Yeah. No, I think you definitely need an element of patience and thick skin. I like to think I have that. Coaching is something I think I'm pretty decent at. And don't get me wrong. There are definitely times where it gets frustrating. Like, it's not amazing all the time. There are definitely moments where I'm just like, but like, you work through it, and then you stop and you go, remember working hard, this and that, et cetera, et cetera. Or you just yell at them. Like, we've had classes where, like, I'll say something to one student who does something, and then someone else will come in and do the drill, and they make the same mistake, so I'll say the same thing, and then it'll happen a third time, and I'll turn around and I go, "Oi, I just said the same thing 3 fucking times in a row. I better not say it to anyone else." You watch everyone just kind of go, okay. And sometimes you just kind of need to remind everyone, like, it's great having a good time, but make sure you pay attention as well, because repeating yourself is something that does, especially in the same class. Like, it's different if it's, obviously you're going to repeat yourself because lessons have to transcend people. But when it becomes like the same class, you're like, guys, please listen to me. But it's going to happen. Anything can be frustrating at certain times, but in a general sense, nah, it's great.
Oh, absolutely. But as far as the Rapscallion character and gimmick, how did you come up with that? I mean, your character is quite unique, and it's quite interesting as well. You know, tell us, how did you come up with the character?
Well, so I remember the first moment, right? I was in the shower, and I was hit by, like, you know how when you're in the shower you think random stupid shit. I was thinking of mischief, and I was like, the master of mischief. Like, for some reason, that was the very first thing that came to mind. I was like, the master of mischief. I was like, I could fuck with that, because I'm a larrikin. I'm a mischievous kind of, I like to goof around. I'm a very extrovertial personality, and I'm like, I can put that in my wrestling and then just fucking take it to the next level. And I was like, and I couldn't think of characters, heels in particular, because it was kind of where I wanted it to go originally, who really tune into mischief. There's a lot of arrogance, there's a lot of rage, there's a lot of viciousness. I was like, there's no mischief. Like, how many wrestling characters are there that just fuck with people for haha? I was like, I could really tap into that, right? And then I started thinking and trying to evolve on that idea. And then that's when I started thinking, I was like, well, clowns, right? Clowns are like icons of mischief. So that's when I started thinking about different clown characters and clown inspirations. So obviously characters like the Joker, like Jim Carrey as the Mask, Pennywise when you want to take it dark, any other, like even fucking like Krusty the Clown, just any clown in general. And then other mischievous characters. You got your Deadpools, or just anything Jim Carrey does, quite frankly, because Jim Carrey is my childhood hero. And the ideas just started coming to me, and it just started morphing, right? And then I came up with the name Rapscallion, and I was just like, I can't remember if I was triggered by something or the ideas came into mind, because I think I started calling myself the Master of Mischief before I called myself the Rapscallion, as I was developing into that character, because I didn't want to just kind of go from Mick Moretti, the Green Dragon, and just bam, okay, today I'm this guy all of a sudden. I tried to do like a slow burn. So it was a few promos and a few matches where I slowly kind of regressed into madness, if you like. And then the Rapscallion came along, and I was like, that's such a nice, single, punchy word that means kind of what I'm going for. Like, it means a mischievous person. It's unique in of itself, because so many people say to me, what's a Rapscallion? And I'm like, it literally means a person of mischief. It's like the word rascal, but just fucking, it's got like a fucking fancy flair on it. And then, yeah, it all just came from there. Like the original look with the hair and the beard. I was sitting in a meeting in my old job once, just doodling. And I was like, I want high hatchy hair, because I'm fucking bald, right? I can't grow hair up here to save my life.
Same here,
I was like, I could,
that way.
mate, it's too much testosterone. All right, we're just too manly.
That's it, bro.
That's all it is, bro. Too much test. Yeah. So I drew this doodle with like high hatchy hair, and then I drew the big beard on it. And I gave him like shattered eyes, and I was like, that's going to be my look. I still have that drawing somewhere, because it was the first visual representation of the Rapscallion. And then fucking 18 months later, I was it. I was like, I did it. I achieved what I wanted to achieve. And then from there, I've just started thinking of different ways that I can evolve and different avenues I can take the Rapscallion down to kind of make him mischievous or fun or this or that or dastardly or evil. Like, I can take it in a lot of different directions. And I like I've always wanted to be unique. Like, you have to stand out, right? That's the point. Like, why be exactly like every other wrestler? So when people say to me, you're so different, you're so weird, I'm like, good. Like, I remember when we were in the first Mania week, we did the PWA match at what show was it? I can't remember who hosted the show, but they gave us it was the one run by independentwrestling.tv, the family reunion show, where every match was a different wrestling company. Oh, right, they had their featurette, right? I think it was just called the family reunion. It might have been WrestleCon. Yeah. I think it was IWTV or whatever, Powerbomb TV or whatever it was back then, right? Yeah. And so we had the PWA match, and we were in there doing our thing. And someone who I knew in the crowd came up to me in the match and goes, yeah, so the commentators behind me were just like, what is this guy? I don't even know. Like, I just don't know. And I'm like, good, perfect. I don't want you to fucking know. Like, that's half the fun, is you sitting there trying to work out what the fuck I'm doing. So, yeah, exactly. It's all just blended from that. And just me, like, trying to fuck with people while fucking with people while fucking with people.
But that's the thing. The word rapscallion is almost like a really old word that our grandmothers would use back in the day. Like, you little rapscallion, scallywag.
Yeah, exactly.
I had to throw the last bit in, because that's how my grandma speak. You fucking cunt.
Yeah, bless.
You know, but that's the thing. Like, it's the word as well. It's got that sort of, like, you know what I mean? Because it's not something you hear every single day, rapscallion. So it's like,
exactly.
What's a rapscallion? You know what I mean? Like, younger generations, what does that mean? And that's
exactly, man.
I can see what you mean, man.
And that's kind of what I want to, like, I've had different people say, like, you should try and get like a particular image or a thing so that people know what's going on. And it makes so much sense, right? Because that's how you kind of build familiarity and shit. I was like, but I'd rather do the opposite. I'd rather break the rule and make people ask questions all the time. Like, I kind of want them to have that confusion, that disbelief, that second guessing, and gauge an interest through that way. Like, and it may not work. Maybe it won't work, but I'm going to keep trying anyway, because then I did something different. So,
but that's the thing, in pro wrestling, everything's been done before and repeated twice, 3 times over. And if you can have a something original and something new, it's the biggest standout of all, you know, is having something unique and being that real sort of fine line of, oh, what the fuck is this? That's, you know, getting that reaction is what you want. So
that's exactly what I want. I've never seen anyone stand on their head, jump on it, and then hurricane run someone. Ever. Well, I did it. I fucking.
But that's the thing, man. It's doing shit new that people haven't seen, and sending like us fans home with something going, man, that Mick Moretti's a crazy fucking son of a bitch. Like that Rapscallion. What the fuck? But
that's it, baby.
one of the questions I wanted to ask you was, a couple of years ago, you came out with the hashtag, "You're gonna notice us." Now, I did. What, you know, for those that are home watching, explain to us, what was the reason behind that hashtag and that movement for you?
So this falls back into the whole us thing I was talking about the community mentality behind PWA was I could see this. I don't know the word for it, like this disparity, this distance between people, this idea of competition, this idea of our company, not their company, whatever. And I was like, no, fuck that. Like, we should all be on this. Like, as Australians, we should just, not to make it all patriotic, but I was like, we should band together because we're out here doing some great shit. And it's no point us competing with each other in this small pond when we could band together and then put that out to the world and then them go, oh shit, look how good Australia is. And it's no good if we're fighting each other. We can't, it's not going to work. So the original idea of that was like, obviously the message you're going to notice us was, hey world, look at Australia. But at the same time, that promo was kind of like a call to arms. It was like, guys, you know, let's all share this thing together, because then we have power in unity. We have a broader reach, because if I put it out, I'll get my 300 followers who see it and go, great. But if I share it and then Robbie shares it, then that's more. And then if everyone in Australia who has a unique following shares it, all of a sudden we're reaching a bigger audience that we all get them to share the return on. And it was just about bringing everyone together for that cause. But at the same time, then going out overseas and saying, like, it's not, oh, hey, look, you know, we're pretty good guys. Would you watch our thing, please? Please, like, click and subscribe, whatever. It was, no, you're going to fucking notice this. Like, because it was already happening. We were like, it was when Buddy Murphy and Tony Storm were starting to make waves. The Iconics were just breaking in. Like TM61 were just starting to do their thing. And like Australians were just starting to pop up. Like Emma had been in Raw and stuff. Like, people were starting to see Australia pop up a bit more, and New Zealand, because like, I know we always own them, but like, fucking brought them in. And like, it was just, we want them to realize why they're seeing this, and it's because we're so fucking good. And it was, the idea was, you're going to start seeing more of us, right? Like, get ready for it. And that was the idea, was just get everyone together and say, watch out, here we come. And it did. We got there, and then everyone was just like, fuck yeah, like Australia. And then it started going on, and it got to this point where I was like, well, they've noticed us now. I needed phase 2. I was like, where does this go from here? And I was like, well, once you get noticed, I was like, as a country, what do we want to do now? If we're a nation, now we have to conquer the world. So that's when it evolved into Now We Conquer. Same movement, just the next step. Like, I still wanted people to work together. I still wanted that unification, and the idea that if we all keep pushing this message as one en masse, it's going to reach more people. And if anyone who makes it somewhere and does really well continues to share that for us, all they're going to do is share that success with the place they've come from.
Yeah.
And that was the idea. I didn't want people just disappearing and then fucking off, because a lot of fans aren't going to just see someone and go, they came from Australia, cool. Want to go watch Australian wrestling? Yeah, no, like, they don't do that. You literally need to go fucking watch Australian wrestling, motherfucker, or they're not going to do it. So that was the idea, was to kind of force that idea in people's minds. We need to watch Australian wrestling as well. And now I've already started thinking, I was like, now that Now We Conquer's done its thing for a while, maybe it's time for something new. Maybe I need to go into phase 3. What is that? How do I do it? Because I feel like I mean, 2020 hasn't helped, but it's fallen under the wayside a bit. We need to do something again to reunite everyone, get another fucking message en masse, and push it again. Because when everything kicks back into gear, we need to take the fuck over. So yeah, that was the idea behind all of that in a basic little nutshell.
Jeez, man, you just pumped me the fuck up. I'm like, I just want to start fucking tweeting shit. Go, fuck yeah, let's go watch Australian wrestling, fucks. But
yeah, you know, dude, like,
sorry, go on.
No, I was just gonna say, we've got the talent here, man. Like, we've got the work ethic, we've got the talent, we've got the production. Like, in every city, there's good wrestling. And I love that we've all started working. I feel like we've all started working together more. And I would love to say that I had a hand in that. You know what I mean? Like, I want in 10 years' time, I would rather, right, if I'm to make it to WWE one day, big fucking world champion, fuck yeah. I'm not going to say no to that. New Japan world champion, fuck yeah. But if failing all of that, the one legacy I want to leave behind as a professional wrestler is when someone goes, Australian wrestling, like, yeah, that's hot shit, like one of the biggest countries in the world for wrestling. Why? Mick Moretti. I want my name to be at the top of that fucking list of people. I'm not going to be the only one. I'm not saying that. But like, when they say, how come it's so big? I want my fucking name on that list, because I want to make something of where I've been. Know what I mean? Yeah. That's the legacy I've always wanted.
Leave a lasting legacy, man.
That's it. That's the real proper legacy I want to leave behind. And then anything else that I get on top of that, then fuck yeah.
Bonus. But that's the thing, man. Australian wrestling has been good for so long and for many, many years. And it's probably been like the last, let's say 10 years where Australian wrestlers Australia's really started to see on the map, you know, people that you've mentioned like Emma, Murphy, the Iconics, you know, look at NXT right now with, you know, Indy Hartwell, Bronson Reed, aka Jonah Rock, you know,
these,
you know, even Shazza McKenzie, you know, as well, and the stuff that she's been able to do as well.
It could have started so much earlier, like with Madison and Shazza doing their Shimmer stuff. In 2011, Madison Eagles was voted the number fucking one in the PWA top 50 women's wrestlers. Like, fuck, like she got number one spot over like WWE, New Japan, or sorry, like fucking the female Japan, like TNA as well. But like it's Stardom, thank you, bloody brain. Like number one over all of them in the world, and still no one went, hey, Australia, maybe we should. You know,
let's just hop on a plane, go to Bondi for you know
what I mean. We had to force it down their fucking throats. So, but yeah, no, you're right. The last 10 years, we've seen an increase, and we've seen the snowball effect start to take on. And I just want us to keep running with it. You know, I think being stuck out on this island so far away from everything was what our biggest disadvantage was. Right now, during Corona, it's our biggest advantage. But you know, circumstance.
But that's the thing as well. Like you look at like the talent that's in Australia right now, and the talent that's coming through. What it was like, you know, when I started going to Australian wrestling shows, you know, back in the early I keep saying back in the early 2000s, 20 years ago. Yes, people, I'm fucking old. But you know, the thing is, well, like you see the difference as far as quality of athletes that are involved in it as opposed to what it was 20 years ago. You know, you're looking at people that look like they are professional wrestlers, that they belong in that ring, that they look like stars. And you know, you definitely see that professionalism in them. Especially the ones I've spoken to as well. Like it, you know, each one is very professional in the way that they approach an interview, and that's a small part of what you guys have to do as professional wrestlers. But it's you can see that where it's at. You know what I'm saying? So I think what you guys
the industry's changed as well.
100%. You know, and I think the world has pretty much changed with social media and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. And, everything's changing. You've got to change with it. So we've got to adapt at least.
And that's the thing, it's as well as, you know, using social media to help storylines and you know, help gimmicks and stuff like that to get so fans can keep up to date. So when they turn up their show, they know what's, you know, they know more of the stuff that's going on as opposed to
have nothing.
Sell them on
we have that tool. Exactly. That tool of social media is so powerful because you can reach a broader order. You can reach a broader audience. You can educate people as to what's happening before they get to the show. You can carry on storylines. Like, it's just so many things so that we're no longer confined to the space of the show and the venue itself, and then that's the end. Like that, I think the rise of the digital age has helped in the rise of indie wrestling globally.
Oh, 100%. And, you know, that's the thing. As far as Australian wrestling goes, there's something going on with Australian wrestling, and it's, you know, and as I said before, the Australian wrestlers I've been fortunate enough to speak to have all said the same thing. There's something going to happen here. We just don't know what it is, but we can feel this is something it's really driving. And
it was almost that chip on the shoulder kind of effect. Like we had something to prove. Like we've been busting our asses out here. Like, and don't get me wrong, it's amazing. But I've been in this for 12 years now, right? Busting my ass for 12 fucking years. Like I've got a point to prove. Now there's guys getting the opportunities that I've been getting after wrestling for 3, 4, 5 years. You know what I mean? So like that extra chip on the shoulder is what has driven us, I think. And I love that now the opportunities are coming for the people in Australia. They don't have to work for 12 years anymore. They can get to the point where they're great and they deserve these opportunities and they can get them sooner. But it's that idea is like, we're stuck out here, we're doing these awesome things and no one's seeing it. We have to show them what we can do. And I think that's kind of just driven that mentality, which has now kind of been bred and kind of spread throughout the people who train.
You know, about a year or two ago, you know, there was a rumor that WWE were going to create a performance center here in Australia. I personally was like, Australia, really. We're pretty small as far as like the rest of the world to put a performance center.
Yeah.
But I thought, what the fuck, great for Australian wrestling. Is that something that you actually heard about, or is that something that, you know, where WWE had spoken to PWA about potentially partnering or something there?
I don't think they'd spoken to anyone directly. I think it was just one of those rumors floating around. I think Triple H did a fucking tweet or whatever where it was like, yeah, maybe in like 5 years we'll, you know, do a WWE Australia or whatever. But I don't think there was ever anything concrete. I think it was just kind of them fanning the flame of what we were doing down here. So who's to know for sure? I think New Japan has shown a lot more genuine interest in the Australian scene, which makes sense too because they're so much closer to home. Like I think there's actually tangible things for them to be able to do over here. And quite frankly, I think that would probably be better for us than WWE. Like, look what WWE's done to the UK. Like, WWE's great because it's WWE, but are they great in that sense? Like, who's to know? Like, I don't really know enough about business and the wrestling world as a whole to say this way or that way. But part of me says if they did something like that, it may not be as beneficial as we think. But I'd also like to think in devil's advocate of myself, part of the problem is when they come along, they take the top talent of everything, right? So they take the cream of the crop. So then that's why everything suffers. We work so hard to make everyone, especially I'm speaking mostly for our school, and I like to think there's a lot of other schools doing the same thing now, is that if you take the cream of our crop, what's left behind is still fucking amazing anyway. So maybe in that regard, we're going to be just fine. Who's to know?
But that's the thing in the wrestling business. People are always, you know, stars are always coming out. People are always evolving, and you know, you've seen it with wrestling over the last 20, 30 years. When WCW would raid WWE, WWE would raid ECW, and you know what I mean. Like it's a vicious cycle. But stars kept on coming up, and they started creating more people. So, you know, it's an ever evolving business. Yeah,
so, exactly right. You just got to keep evolving. Support the evolution.
Exactly.
Sprinkle the seeds of growth.
But where do you see the future of Australian wrestling?
I don't know, man. It's hard to say. Like, I would love to have a locally developed national. Excuse me, I'm burping. A locally built national brand that has either a TV deal or some sort of nationwide development sort of display deal, whether that's some sort of streaming thing or something like that, or TV or whatever, but also has international reach. Like, you know, like in the way that Progress sort of started to become the big place of the UK, I would love to see that, but bigger, you know, without being WWE Australia. I want something homegrown, homemade that is nationwide, the thing for wrestling. And then all of our other places can still keep doing their thing on an independent level and work towards feeding that. But it has international reach. And everyone goes, when you say Australian wrestling, you go, you need to watch this. Like AEW just kind of came out of nowhere and did their thing and made this big company. Now, they're not the American wrestling, but in that sense, I'd love for Australia to build a company like that and just go boom. That's not to say it has to be only Australian wrestling. It'd be great to bring in some talent from different countries to bring in some flavor, right? But to be fundamentally built off the foundation of Australia. That's what I would like to see. That's what I would like to see, if that's doable, if that's possible. I don't know. Like, some would argue that the Australian market won't be able to facilitate that because we don't have the population. We don't have, you know, the infrastructure for that as far as developing that audience. So I don't know. I'm not a business guy. What do you want from me? But
you know what? It might not be at the level of a WWE type of crowds.
Maybe not.
Get it, the ECW type crowds.
Maybe, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm happy with that, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. With the digital age, if you get an audience big enough to make the live event amazing, the atmosphere good, you can get all your sales online. You know what I mean? Like, it can be the streaming thing, it can be the TV deals, it can be the sponsorships. That's where you can get your audience. So that's where I would like to see it facilitated. But yeah, who's to know? Or in the alternative, as a breeding ground. They're like, you know what Australia makes? Really good professional wrestlers. Let's send everyone there to get trained because they're fucking amazing. So our schools just make champions. Maybe something like that.
You know what? It's a great idea, man. And I definitely think PWA is the place to do it. You know, you guys are the standout, and I'm definitely not trying to blow smoke up your ass in saying it. But I'm just speaking fact, man. Like, looking at the product.
I will agree.
As you fucking should, mate. Your employer. But Mick, we have been at that 1 hour mark, and I want to be respectful of your time. But please tell everyone where they can find you, where they can support you, where they can follow you on social media and PWA.
All right, so PWA is at PWA Australia, pretty much across most of the social media brands. I think we've got the Twitters, we've got Instagram, we're on the Facebook. Me personally, my wrestling shit, full Rapscallion, FULLRAPSCALLION. That's on Instagram, that's on the Twitter. If you just search Mick Moretti on Facebook, you'll find me. If you want to stay up to date with my non-wrestling shit, because I'm kind of separating them now so that my wrestling personality and my life outside of that are considered different, because people seem to forget that they're different things. Wrestling's a performance, guys. It's
real to me,
Mick Moretti. Oh, what? Good. Nah, when you're in there, be real. But then remember, outside of that, we're human beings as well. If you care about my shenanigans when I'm not donning face paint and acting a fool, ITSA_me_Moretti. You know, like it's a me Mario, but it's a me Moretti. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. Or you can follow at Defiety, DEFIETY. That's me trying to fuck with some arts and media shit. I'll be trying to edit videos. I do graphic design. I'll be fucking with art. Just whatever creative juices I feel like putting out into the world, I'm going to do through that medium. That's on Instagram. That's on Twitch. That's on Twitter, that's on TikTok. There you go. That's pretty much all the million places that I exist online. Holy fuck balls, that's a lot of places.
That is amazing, man, and thank you for sharing that. Alcoholic
and the
Adam
Pro Wrestling Academy.
There you go. Alcoholic Adam says, fuck me, we need part 2. I'll work on that with Mick to arrange that. But guys, look, thank you very much for tuning in for tonight's episode. Mick, I really appreciate your time. It's been great talking to you. We definitely have to do a part 2 on this one, man. Guys, again, thank you for watching. Please make sure that you go check out our sponsors, Wasif Championship Belts, A-Rock Designs, and Signal Studios, and also head over to prowrestlingtees.com/MWA World and get yourself some motherfucking merchandise. But until next time, guys, I'm Piers Austin. That's Mick Moretti. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Thanks.